Hello again and welcome to the Daily Templar Report with me, your guest presenter Jim Dowson, the longest guest presenter ever known. But there we are, you know the reasons for that. Nice to see you all, one and all. I'm totally confused because I've been doing work down here all weekend. I am convinced, my body clock is convinced it's Tuesday. And somebody told me, no, it's Monday. So I'm totally confused and don't know where I am. Now, let's have a wee... we've got Mr. Nick Griffin in as a guest tonight. We'll just make sure. Are you there, Mr. Griffin?
I am indeed,
in
yes.
A state of undress. But anyway, I'll come back to you in a minute, like you get yourself organised.
Completely.
He's a very busy man, you see. Okay, let me give you a wee bit of Bible reading. We're reading today from Proverbs 27. Just a short one, verse 12. A prudent man foresees the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Ha ha! Now, if we had more time, I'd have showed you what I mean by that. But on Saturday, there was a big demonstration in Dublin, ladies and gentlemen. And a load of people turned up. And, they're saying it was the right wing. It wasn't the right wing. It was a group called the Yellow Vests or some kind of flaky pro-free speech, libertarian, left. They're actual lefty liberals. And there was in the crowd was mixed Antifa as well. And people were firing rockets at the police. People said, oh, no, it was a setup. Oh, behave, grow up. Firing rockets at the cops, but the Irish cops take no nonsense. So they 5 or 6 cops wired into them and chased about 500 people down the street and arrested 30 or something, so on and so forth. But I've been telling people, be very careful. You're dealing here with the COVID worldwide lockdown. You go out and say, well, I don't care, I'm going to protest, or I'm not going to wear a mask into the shop. They, if they had to, will kill you to keep this whole thing going. Do you understand? I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is you need to understand the depth of wickedness that you're up against and what they are prepared to do to shut you up. Now, we're a fighting order. We believe we have to take down tyrants, but there's a time and a place and a way to do it. If you're going to go out in the street and shout and bawl, you're going to get arrested, you're going to lose your job, you're going to get flung in jail. Who's going to feed your kids? All of that stuff has to be considered before you do it. If you still want to do it, it's up to you. But as this passage says here, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Be wise, be wise, be brave. Nothing wrong with being brave, but there's a time and place to be brave, and if you do it in the wrong time and place, you're a fool. So make sure we don't cross that line. And we know the Lord will add his blessing to this, the public reading of his infallible, inspired and completely inerrant word. Amen. And let's have an amen for you guys out there. Amen. Too many people question the Bible, but never question science. You know, in my lifetime, there's a place in London, you'll know it, Nick, the Natural History Museum. It's built like a church. It's built in the style of a church. You see. They knew what they were doing. But when you get it, there's a big dinosaur. It used to be in the front of it, and as you walk in the foyer, there's a huge dinosaur. In my lifetime, they've changed it from being on all fours to being up there, to being a bird, to having skin, to having feathers. In my lifetime, they don't know what they're talking about. But nobody questions science. But everybody questions the Bible. Well, I know what one I trust. Amen. Okay, I just want to see some of the comments in there. Let's see who's in there. Oh, a few folk might not be able to get through them all, but how you look. Ralph Rowley, how you doing? Evan Eggestrom, how are you? Sean Smiley, William Munford, Antonio Rebello, Mr. Christopher Stred, Philip Milne, EMS Rejuvenation, Darling Stuff, how you doing? Miss Sherry B, Andy McBride, how you doing? Gary Hardwick, nice to see you there. Paul Telford and Sonny Liverpool, Mike freaking A, Templar Guard, Angela Wright, God bless you. Bartley Burker, how you doing, brother? Malcolm Cook, Stuart Duncan, how you doing? Lady Rotha, nice to see Lady Rotha. Troy Otto in Florida. Jacob Lewis in Oregon, I think he was there. Bruce Samuelson, God bless you. Gabriel Stanley, a new name, I think. Joseph Taylor, God bless you too. Brian Payton, Dominic Hull, Clinton Dixon, how you doing, Clinton? Peter Holder, Niels R, how you doing? Nice to see you. Angela Wright, Samuel S, God bless you. Scorpion's in. The Scorpion's in. God bless you, Scorpion. How you doing? Robert Erickson. Stuart Bowden. Who else did I see there? I think you've covered it. Mr. Strid, yeah, I've seen him. Ragnar, 71. Deuce Valtbury. Gary Hardwick. Seen him there. Yeah, good. Excellent. Well, nice to see you all. Welcome, one and all. Remember, Brother, I'll put a wee link on in a minute. The second batch of your shares in the old crypto mining thing, which is driving me nuts. It's generating that much heat. We've had people punching holes in roofs and putting extractor fans in this size of an industrial complex. It's ridiculous. But it's all going well. And we're still building and building and building and building and building and building, because the money doesn't go to people's salaries. It goes directly into buying more kit to do more mining. And it's good for us at the moment because there's a downturn, which is great. It means we can mine more. So it's all going swimmingly. But it is a lot of more effort and work on the part, especially the techie guy, but everybody generally. And it's but it's worth it, and we'll keep batting away at it. But it's incredible the amount of heat this stuff generates. Absolutely insane. But good when you live in a cold country. Heat the priory up. Okay, listen, I'm going to bring Mr. Griffin in here. How you doing, Mr. Griffin?
I'm very well, James. I'm very well indeed.
Good. Now, I know you've got some interesting stuff.
I'm a bit older, I'm a year older.
Oh, yes, your birthday today?
It is indeed. I'm a year older today.
I remember standing in your kitchen, brother. And I think you'd turned, was it 50?
Yeah, I
you
think
got
so,
your
yes.
thing from the Cambridge University, your blue thing. And I remember standing in your kitchen. It was a very stressful time. We were in the election thing, coming up for the Euros and all that stuff. And yep, I remember standing in your kitchen. You were making breakfast, and it was your birthday that day. And that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yep. Well, so we won't embarrass you by your age, but you're getting on, son. You're getting on. Tell you. Now, just before we bring you on, I want to introduce our people to a mentor of mine, actually. A man who was a great mentor of mine some years ago. And this is a man who's at the top of his game in the business world. And because he wished me and my family Happy New Year, or Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, on my social media, somebody seen it, big story in the paper, and he was sacked from his international job as one of these big director people. Yes. Yeah. So, but he didn't deny me, and he's a good man, and he's wrote a book, and he's even got me in it. But the man's name is Michael Willis. Yes, and even more astounding, especially being my mentor, he's an Englishman. Can you imagine such a thing, Mr. Griffin? Englishman.
Okay. And an English Catholic.
He's a Catholic as well. Well, he was one of them.
Catholic.
It's quite incredible, but meeting him, and he had a big family, all lovely kids. And they were very posh, ever so posh and middle class. And I was a wild man out in the streets outside the abortion clinics. And he sent all his kids volunteered to go with me. And we stood against some really rough times. We had some really rough times. And these were very genteel people. But they taught me a lot about God and everything. And the Roman Catholics, and they never persuaded me to be one, but they taught me a lot, and certainly knocked a lot of the sectarianism which you grew up with in the west of Scotland and Ulster. A lot of that sectarianism was dissipated by these people and how they lived their lives. Anyway, his book is called Cultural Letters from the Cultural War by Michael Willis. And I just want to give you the wee intro. So about the author. He looks like Julio Iglesias. Do you remember the singer? That's what he looks like. Very suave guy. He was appointed to the board of directors in his 30s and pursued a successful career with a family-owned engineering group. Later recognised for his expert counsel and advice to over 1,000 directors and their boards on how to lead and govern their organisations. He has written up his experience and know-how in a number of papers, books and training courses on governance. He spent 14 years raising awareness of and funds for persecuted Christians, especially in the Middle East where he was born. But he's English. Catholic, father of 5 children and grandfather to 8, he's a resolute defender of human life, freedom of speech and the gates of the city from the barbarian hordes in what is the culture war. So that's who the man is. A great man indeed. And that's the type of people we associate with, not trash. And he writes a wee bit in his book, considering my name has caused him so much trouble. He said, I then moved into the political, more direct action of pro-life activity, exposing the corruption of sex education and its links to abortion. This was with Parent Truth and the UK Life League under the leadership of Jim Dowson, the man the left have come to fear, and who was picketing NHS hospitals and clinics most weekends. There you go. He even mentions me in his book, despite the trouble it caused him. So God bless him.
Good man.
And the good news is he's coming on here. They put this in your diary. He's coming on here, the Templar Report, on Wednesday to talk about this book, to talk about this, okay? So everybody, please join us on Wednesday. Mike Willis is here. He's a personal mentor of mine, so please come and see the man who helped make me what I am today. And you can blame him. Right, Mr. Griffin, what have we got?
Well, I look forward to that. Definitely should be really good. mainly, I'd like to do what we said last week, which is to read a short section from the new book, which we'll do in a little while. I want to read the preface from the Grand Master, which came through and so on, and have to hope everything's all right, because if not, it's too late to get out the press. But anyway, before we do that, I thought we'd have a little bit of a discussion on current affairs. Jim, did you see Donald Trump's speech last night?
I've seen bits of it. I must admit, I didn't watch it all.
Yeah, I watched some. It was quite a lot. The surprising amount was shown on the news. I was very pleased to say he looked very well, much more relaxed than he has been, which I suppose is no surprise. Very happy, very confident. That was all really good. Less good is the fact that all the faithful there are basically taking a nod and a wink that he's going to stand in 2024 and it'll all be all right, which self-evidently it is not. When one of the key most effective parts of his speech, he was talking about what Biden's doing with the mass immigration scam, and what is probably going to be they've had the biggest cheat in history, and now they're going to have the biggest gerrymandering in history by bringing in millions upon millions upon millions of hardcore Democrat voters. And Donald Trump acknowledged this, but he's still telling people, don't worry, it's all in hand. We're going to make America great again. And that is a great shame, because it's simply wasting everyone's time and hope and money and love. But at least the man is very well, and it's good to see him fighting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's tragic. And I think, remember, we Brits used to be the big dogs. Now, in the last 70, 80 years, it's been Americans being the big dogs. And I noticed it took a long time, especially for the English, to grasp they're not the big dogs anymore, they're not in charge anymore, and people have took over your country. Being a Scot, an Irish Scot, I understand it. We come from two cultures who have always been the underdogs, the Scots and the Irish. But I know the English have suffered with this, and I think the Americans are in the early stages, and it'll take 20 years for them to really get through their skulls that there's no way back. Biden's going to give the vote to about 11 million people. Natural demographics mean from his first election to his second election, about 15 million white middle-class Americans are dead. Yeah. And there is millions and millions more people who vote Democrat being born. So add them to the 11 million illegals and so on and so forth. There's a demographic change probably in the magnitude of 30 to 50 million by the time the next election comes from 2016. And that just cannot be overcome. That cannot be overcome. So it's a real worry that people still think this can be fixed. There ain't no fixing this, short of another period of time that where the blue coats and the grey coats went at each other. This cannot be fixed. I'm sorry, it cannot be fixed. And anybody who tells you different is either not looking at the figures, or is mad, or is a deceiver. What do you think?
I agree entirely, and I'll put my neck out and make one prediction, Brother Dowson, because you talked there about the decline of America into, it'll still be a great country, potentially at least, but no longer the world superpower, without a shadow of a doubt. So my prediction is this, that during the Biden or the Harris era, they will pick a fight with some second-rank power, third-rank power, quite possibly Iran, and they pick on Iran, they'll lose all their ships. That's it. They pick on China, they'll lose all their ships. Not after 5 or 6 months, within 5 or 6 minutes of the confrontation actually starting. And that will bring home to all Americans that this is no longer the exceptional nation which can dominate the entire rest of the world. The best it can hope to do, which is actually all a country should aim to do, is be a proper sovereign country which punches its weight, which doesn't send its boys and its girls and its treasure to police the whole rest of the damn world. It's just a normal, proper, big country. But that's the very best that America can be, and that's not going to be for a long time in the future, because first they've got to go through
what we went through. Yeah. It's very strange. I remember talking to an American once, went to Hungary, and all these Americans were holed up in the hotel, and they wouldn't go out to the hotel complex. And I was wandering down there was a McDonald's just opened, I come up with a Big Mac, and all these Americans were lunging at me. I said, where did you get that? I said, down there. Did you go out there? I said, of course I went out there. I said, well, we're Americans, we can't go out because nobody likes us because we're a superpower. I said, listen, you've been a superpower for 50 years. We were a superpower in the world for 250 years. You're disliked. We are utterly hated because we have done so much. See, America's never done anything to Hungary. We've fought with Hungary many times, bombed it many times, invaded it, had slaughtered their armies and all that stuff. And there's no country in the world that Britain hasn't had a beef with many, many times over, including Afghanistan. So they said, oh, really never thought about it like that. So America, you're right. It's going to take a while for American mindset to be into the flow of where things are going and what's happening in the world. So, but we stand by our American brothers and sisters, 100%, and we're with you every step of the way. But it's not good, is it? Okay, let's not be too depressed.
No, indeed. So the other thing I think which is sort of worth talking about happened over the weekend. I didn't have the time to send the techie brother the picture of this, but it doesn't really need. It's only a tweet. The World Economic Forum, the people behind the Great Lockdown and the Great Reset, sent out a tweet, and they said, "Lockdown's a picture of a city street completely empty, with the caption to it: Lockdowns are quietly improving cities around the world."
Really?
Which just shows that these people are not they are evil and they are very, very rich, but they're not the evil geniuses they're supposed to be, because this was a catastrophic PR error. And within hours, the whole of social media, even controlled and censored though it is, the whole world of social media was positively awash, alight with people sending flaming messages about the World Economic Forum and who these arrogant swine think they are, etc., etc. And you think that at this very minute, there are millions upon millions of small businesses, medium businesses, shut down, destroyed by this. That's what those empty streets mean. There are hundreds of millions of people who haven't been able to go out to see their kids, to see their parents or grandparents, even to have a drink or meet with friends for the best part of a year now. And these people are incandescent, but they might have put up with that. They might put up with it if they think it's necessary because of COVID and the health and so on. But to be told by these arrogant, smarmy swine who fly to Davos and so on whenever they want that this lockdown has improved their cities, improved their lives, this was really, it wasn't one bridge too far, it was a whole series of bridges too far. And they've really taken some flack from it. They took the tweet down, but that probably then makes it even worse. And in fact, they doubled down on the stupidity. They dug themselves a hole, and they've drawn attention of a whole new section of the population who didn't begin to understand this. I've now honed in on the World Economic Forum. You start your research on that online. Within 2 hours, you know most of it. Within 10 hours, you're barking mad with it all. But they didn't do themselves any favours at all. It's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, just before we forget, we go into this because we need to. Well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I need to take this watch off again because I don't like looking at my watch. I need to take this clock. I'm going to remind me to fix that tonight, techie man. Absolutely, but we need to watch our time. Happy St David's Day. This is the patron saint's day of Wales, St David, which is, I believe, a black flag with a yellow cross. But the Welshies have changed that for some kind of weird dragon thing. I don't know what happened there. So happy St David's Day to you, Mr. Griffin, and to all the people there over in Wales. God bless you, one and all, Yaki Da, or whatever you say in Welsh. So God bless you all. Now, let's crack on with this. And Wales hammered, destroyed England at the rugby at the weekend.
That's to our American viewers. That is a
proper game. No padding, just big men getting wild, isn't it?
And they don't wear all this fancy poncy
helmets. No, just big mad men biting each other's ears off. And I've heard a horrible thing that they shoved their hands up each other's rectums in the scrum. I'm not big enough to play rugby, but I'm very glad.
Well, we didn't at school.
No, I've seen it. And it's been outlawed in the sport, thank goodness. But I ain't playing rugby, that's for sure. Right, let's get into this because we've very little time.
Right, okay. So would you like me to read this?
Oh, yes.
Yes. You would, right. I don't know how long it'll take. We might have to stop it halfway, or I'm happy to get through it. It goes like this. I'm reading it off my screen here because it's away at the printers, so that's why I'm looking over there. Dear reader, welcome to Deus Vult, the Great Reset Resistance. The first two words of the title signify that this is the second part, of the Knights Templar Deus Vult trilogy. It is, however, a standalone book, an absolutely invaluable work in its own right. It gives us a Christian nationalist view of the so-called Great Reset. Most important of all, it presents a theoretical and practical framework by which good men and women can set about resisting the monstrous evil concealed behind the latest incarnation of the liberal rebellion against nature and God. Many readers will have bought this beautifully produced, skillfully wordsmithed and very timely book out of concern over the very real practical impact of lockdowns and climate change legislation over their daily lives. Others out of growing unease about the whole direction of liberal society, particularly in the wake of the successful leftist coup d'etat against the Constitution and freedom of the American Republic. Such readers are likely to already have a broad understanding of how the World Economic Forum's Great Reset aims to communise capitalism, replace national democracy with global technocracy, and pave the way for a de-Christianised world. You also probably have a pretty good idea of what comes next. By their own admission, the elite criminals who have already done so much to destroy our old normal have absolutely no intention of allowing us to try to rebuild it. They pushed Humpty Dumpty off the wall, not because COVID-19 forced them to, but because it gave them a slightly more convincing and urgent excuse for doing so than their previous propaganda hoax, man-made global warming. All the king's horses and all the king's men will now not be trying to put the broken pieces back together again. They will be used to stop anyone who tries to resist. But resist we must, and resistance is what this book is really all about. We're entitled to be angry, but it is not about anger. Many people look at what is being done to us and despair, but it is most definitely not a cry of despair. Rather, this is a call to action, positive, practical, constructive action, action against an idea that is doomed to fail. As our order's Grand Scrivener points out in his highly insightful introduction, although the Great Reset is the work of a hugely wealthy and powerful clique, it is in large part primarily a propaganda stunt, a strange science fiction wish list by individuals as deluded as they are greedy. The Great Reset's Grand Master, Klaus Schwab, presents the whole thing as inevitable. Karl Marx claimed that the inexorable process of history would lead inevitably to the final victory of communism. As befits someone obsessed with green ideas, Schwab has merely upcycled Marx. He's replaced the historical process with technological progress. The harbingers of world revolution and the end of history will no longer be the proletariat, but the robots of the fourth industrial revolution. The whole thing is inevitable, so lie back and enjoy it. Surrender your freedom and we guarantee you security. You will own nothing, but you will be happy. We might even give you a little bite of the apple of technological knowledge, as long as you make us make all the decisions and you do as you're told. That is the message of the technocrat and liberal corporate elite who are running this ongoing coup d'etat against the once free peoples of the world. But just as the inevitability of communism was a propaganda lie, so is the inevitability trumpeted by Schwab, Gates, and the rest of the COVID criminals and carbon profiteers. Yes, the new technology exists or is coming, but as free men, we retain the right to decide whether to adopt it and how to use it. The existence of firearms doesn't make it inevitable that you shoot your neighbour. The invention of technology that could turn us into cyborg cogs in a global megacorporation does not mean that we have to succumb either to the temptation to be as gods or to fear of those who are trying to usurp the right to run our world. So we must resist. This is why the most important word in the title of this book is resistance. It is why the majority of chapters in this book are, one way or another, about resistance, about the solution rather than the problem. This isn't so much about them, it's about us. The global elite clique deliberately dismantling our world is both misguided and evil. We know that from the part of the agenda that they're open about, and it is only reasonable to assume that they have aims they prefer not to reveal. Those may include far more radical plans to reduce the world's population than rolling out reproductive services to every last village in Africa. Since those services include the slaughter of millions of unborn babies, we know that they are, at least in principle, willing to kill huge numbers of innocent people to get the world the way they think it ought to be. Yet it is not just about their plans. We'll also have to examine our own lives and attitudes. One of the most common accusations made by conspiracy theorists against the Great Reset agenda is that mRNA vaccines will turn pregnant women's own immune systems against their unborn babies, making them sterile. Now, the fact-checking claims of the social media censors that this is false news and that there is absolutely no evidence for this claim are self-evidently absurd. By the very nature of human pregnancy, there could be no evidence either way as to whether a hastily created vaccine that had at that stage only been rolled out to people over the age of 60 and for about 8 weeks would or would not affect the fertility of young women in 9 months, let alone of little girls who could not possibly have children for years to come. All we can say is that even if there was no risk at all, there is something very strange about vaccinating children and healthy young adults against a disease which is much less dangerous to them than crossing the road on the way to get vaccinated. The whole thing is so odd that people have grown up watching corrupt corporations bribing politicians, remembering scandals such as thalidomide, and being lied into wars with dodgy dossiers, can surely be forgiven for being suspicious. The liberal elite's response, another wave of arrogant condemnation of the deplorables and another bout of demonisation, censorship and bullying threats, is also not exactly the way to win hearts and minds, or instill confidence that they have nothing to hide. Given their abysmal past record for dishonesty, corruption and sheer incompetence, it is in fact not merely reasonable, but entirely sensible to question everything these crooks and cranks do and say. Before pointing at what we see in their eyes, however, we should first check that there is no beam in our own. Many of those complaining about the alleged elite plot to sterilise the next generation are in favour of the contraceptive and abortion policies and LGBTQ plus indoctrination, which have already slashed our birth rate so far that, absent the immigration, which the liberal elite are so keen to promote, the population of the entire industrial world has already gone into freefall in any case. The best argument against the depopulation claim is that it would be wholly unnecessary. The demographic winter discussed in Deus Vult, Reconquista of the West, means that the native population of the old industrial nations is inevitably going to crash by around 80% by the end of the century anyway. There might be a reason for the elite to encourage the increasingly geriatric population, that's us, to shuffle off their mortal coils a bit quicker than would happen naturally. But stopping their few granddaughters having one child each would simply be overkill, as well as being a very odd move by an elite which the same conspiracy theorists usually say is run by, as opposed to merely contains, which is self-evident, paedophiles. Similarly, there are those who talk incessantly about the potentially poisonous effect of fluoride in the water and 5G signals, but allow their children to drink water known to be full of gender-bending plastics and chemicals, and to spend hours with an electronic signal generator virtually clamped to the side of their heads. Even when the accusations are true, there's absolutely no point complaining about elite plots, or even their very obvious efforts to sterilise, poison or brainwash you and your children, while eating their denatured processed food, living in their dangerous anti-human cities, sending your children to their schools, or letting them watch the incessant anti-normal, anti-white and anti-Christian propaganda spewed out by their entertainment industry. All those words in italics in this paragraph are verbs. They are all things that people do, and which in this case we should not do. This is why in this book and elsewhere, we Templars lay so much emphasis on your personal responsibility to take measures to separate yourself and your loved ones from the corporate liberal Sodom. It is pure hypocrisy to fret or rant about the evils of the world at large, a world over which you have no control, if you do not take steps to improve the little world nearby, the micro world in which your decisions and actions still make a real difference. Thus far, we've only seen the beginning of the Great Reset and the decarbonisation and equity obsession of which it is just a part. As is explained in this book, there is much worse to come. The future collapse of fiat currencies, and especially the dollar, will not be an accidental consequence of what they're doing. It is one of their aims. It will be an act of what they call creative destruction, for it will not only give their insider cronies a feeding frenzy of speculation, far more important, it will provide the excuse for the imposition of the surveillance state's central digital currency. It will happen because they will make it happen. Likewise, the crushing of the middle classes is not collateral damage which the elite would have avoided if they could. Rather, it's one of their key targets, for a free and vibrant independent business economy is a roadblock in the way of their criminal grab to monopolise wealth and power. Even if you cannot bring yourself to believe that the Great Resetters would sterilise or kill huge numbers of people deliberately, there can be no doubt that their insanely destructive policies will bring death and misery to millions by way of collateral damage and unintended, though unavoidable, consequences. And above all, and above and beyond all human actions, we have to ask ourselves how much longer the good Lord will allow these fools and monsters to meddle with his creation, to flout his laws, to persecute the faithful, and to abuse the innocent. To what extent the coming disaster is deliberate or accidental will actually make very little difference, either to the victims or to those they leave behind. We must now all prepare to survive the global chaos these remarkable and frightening events are going to unleash in the years ahead. Start with prayer, of course, but remember too that God helps those who help themselves. The survivors of all this will be those who practice personal and organisational preparedness across the board. Those who get down to plan and to work now. This is our mission. This is your task. Not just because the people running the system are bad, but because the system itself is corrupt and flawed beyond any possibility of redemption. It is time to build your ark, for the flood is coming. Deus Vult.
Deus Vult. Well, that's excellent stuff, Mr. Griffin. Excellent stuff. I think this new book is going to be just fantastic, and it will be out soon. Thank you for your patience, those who waited. I just suddenly caught a sight of myself. I am dressed like this because I've been doing some manual labour today, so don't worry. Standards are not slipping in the order. It's just this is appropriate dress, and it's freezing and bitterly cold. So that's it. No, I think this book and what you've read there is so informative. It's so ahead of the game. There's nothing out there like this. There is nobody producing books like the Order's producing books. The first one, The Reconquista of the West, and this one now, The Great Reset. Nobody's bringing out anything like this. And, you know, I would encourage everybody, if you've not ordered one, please do so. The link, I think there's a link up there, is there? Yeah, there it's there. And again, use this as part of your ministry. Now, with the first one, a lot of people were buying 10. Maybe they struggled to get rid of them, I don't know. Or maybe it's just the times we're in. But people, if you can buy bulk, and give them as presents, as gifts. Because these could be really, other than the Holy Bible, which is above everything, these books could change people's lives, change your own family members' lives. So please bear that in mind. For the sake of $20 or something, you could change somebody's life, which will change their children's lives, their children's lives, and their children's lives. So this could have an effect that lasts hundreds of years. So please take my advice, not for the sake of selling books, because we're selling them at a price we don't make much on. It really is a mission field, and you are the missionaries. Okay, so try and do that if you can. Do you think that's wise advice, Mr. Griffin?
Absolutely so.
It's really important.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's not could change lives. This will change lives. It won't change the life, perhaps, of everyone who reads it. You know, the seed has to fall on fertile ground. But there's so much in it. There's so many seeds, in effect, that some of them will fall on fertile ground with almost everyone who reads it. And some of them, for young people especially, it will change their lives. I have no doubt about it. I wish that I had something like this. Yeah, I'm very satisfied with my life, actually, in all sorts of ways. I've been very, very blessed. But I still wish that I'd had something like this when I was, say, 16, 17, 18.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think now we're getting so many groups and so many organisations popping up, all saying they've got the answer. And most of them, as you well know, they're balloons, well-meaning balloons. And some people are just crackpots altogether. Have I lost Mr. Griffin? Disappeared.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, you're still there. And that's the problem. I mean, a lot of these people are well-meaning, but they haven't a clue what's going on. They haven't a clue what's happening. As you said in that reading of the book there, a lot of people, when you say to them, why are you not doing anything? There's one guy who used to bother me all the time called Richie from Ireland, and he'd be, he was into the Bilderbergers and, these owl things, the Bush family are into it, I don't know what you call them, skull and crossbones and the Bilderbergers and the Rothschilds and everything. I said, what the hell can you do about any of that? You're a guy living in a house in Belfast. What can you do about the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergers? But what you can do is you can clean up your street. You can speak to your neighbours. You can influence your family and the people around about you. You say a micro world, your micro world. What is the point? And this guy done nothing. Never turned up at a demo. When we done food distribution. Remember the Templars were doing food distribution during the early days of the COVID lockdown. He volunteered for nothing. He wouldn't distribute food. I was out every weekend. McConnell was out. We were all out. He done nothing. Yeah. But what he would tell you was what the Bilderbergers were doing, what Queen Elizabeth was involved with the Illuminati and all this stuff. Keep away from these people. But these books are for the grown-up thinking people, and it'll keep you away from all those wacko things. because there are real conspiracies. There are real. They're in the book. These people are doing it, and they're doing it quite openly. So, let's get real. Let's get grown up. There's bad times coming. We need to prepare ourselves for it. But there's good times coming, because the Lord is coming again. And this time when he's coming, he ain't coming offering peace. He's coming with a sword to divide, and he's coming with 100 million angels as a mighty army with flaming swords. So that's our victory. So do not fear too much. Wonderful, Mr. Griffin. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
I don't think so tonight. Often I have a passing thought, but actually reading something as intense as that, it really actually sort of concentrates your mind on it so much it shuts out other things. So no, for once I'm speechless. I've got nothing else to say, but I can come back later in the week should people desire, and if there's something really good to
get
talk
you in
about.
maybe Thursday or Friday. Mike Willis is on Wednesday, but Thursday or Friday would be great, Nick. Excellent. Okay, God bless you, brother. I'll speak to you again.
Okay, speak to you soon. Good night, all.
Good night. Again, what do you think of that? I thought what you read there was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. If I had that 20 years ago, my goodness. Anyway, just to finish up, I've got to do my QVC thing as usual. Oh, goodness sake, wait a minute. I cut my hands off. Or a finger at least. The sword! With plenty of these, non nobis domine, non nobis sed nomine tad gloriam. Not unto us the glory, but unto the Lord. And these are fighting swords made of the finest, oh wait a minute, that could be dangerous, made of the finest quality steel with a full tang, the pommel, all that stuff. It's all good stuff. And obviously it comes, hey, watch the lights, it comes with this is wrapped up in paper, the big leather scabbard. And it comes with, hold on a minute, the very, very fancy and very scary belt. This horrific contraption, but you see, it's very beautiful. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it, but it's a mystery to me how it all works, with the crosses all over it, and it's very good quality leather. So you get that, you get the scabbard, and you get the sword, and we've put up a link there for the warrior pack. You also get a matching dagger with a scabbard that can also go on the belt. So knock yourselves out. They're all available in monthly payments, as usual with us. We try and make it easy for folk to participate and get the kit. And that's it. So there we go. Now, just a final word. I need to speak to some of my brothers in, what's that state? Missouri. They were trying to get me over on about the 12th of March, and I was looking forward to it, and they'd even sent me some tokens to help with the fair. Brilliant. We've just checked with the British government and the American government, and you can't go to America. If I can, but the minute I hit American soil, I'm in quarantine for 7 days. And then when I come back to Britain, I'm in quarantine for 10 days. Is it 14 days? 10 or 14 days. Them are the rules. I don't think Americans actually grasp what we're under here in Europe at the moment. It is frightening. So even getting out of Europe's a difficulty, but when I hit America, I've been quarantined for 7 days. That changed on the 29th or something of January this year. So that looks as if that's paid to that. So, nightmare. So not much we can do. Yep, no good at all. I see Karen and Charlie are saying the shops, no, we don't sell the swords sharp because there'll be lawsuits all over the place. Because folk like showing them at their grandkids. And we can just imagine how Granddad would feel if little Timmy cut his fingers off. But you can sharpen them up. But you don't need to. I mean, I've cut things in half of this. You wouldn't believe, like lambs, sheep's legs, dead sheep. I may add, I never killed them with this. But I've swiped at them, and I'm not a big fella, and it's went right through it, bone and all, no problem. This would take a man's legs off, split a man in half. You don't need to be sharp. It's the weight behind them. They're very dangerous items, to be sure. So be careful, but if you can, get your orders in for them, and that's it. And remember your books, because it's all done and dusted now. We're just waiting them being produced and coming here, and they'll be out. Good news is all backlog books, the first book, this one, all backlogs are gone. I took about 12 sacks to the post today, almost killed myself because they're very heavy. They're gone. You know they take a couple of weeks to arrive, but they're gone. So everybody is up to date. And thank you very much for your support. God bless each and every one of you. That's all from me. I'll be back tomorrow if the good Lord spares me. And remember, as usual, stick close to God. You won't go far wrong. Do us vault.